Welcome back to another episode of the Gold Standard Podcast. Today, we are joined by Quintara. And, as always, my amazing co-host, Kate and Brianna, and myself.
Well, thank you so much for having me. Yeah, First of all, that's amazing. I'm so happy to be here. So a little bit about myself, right? I don't know where to start, right? I feel like this is a hard question to...
Start in the middle.
That's where it typically starts. Because somehow I woke up in ABA and I don't know how I got here.
Yep. Yeah. Check out thekarmacollection.com for stylish ABA-inspired apparel that spreads the message of behavior science with every wear. Free shipping on orders over $120. Thekarmacollection.com.
First and foremost, right, I am a BCBA, right? I started my ABA journey in 2016, 2017, right when I was finishing my master's in child psychology. So this wasn't my path at all, right? And then I was placed with a student in a public school. I was his one-to-one paraprofessional. He was diagnosed with autism, and here I am. I kind of fell in love with whatever it was I was doing. The BCBA at the time, who was overseeing the student's case in the home, she would come into the school to train me. And she was like, hey, you're really good at this. And I said, at what? I'm thinking I'm going to work every day. Like, I don't know that this is something to be good at. And she explained ABA to me. She explained her role as a BCBA to me. And she was like, you need to apply, like go take those course sequences. Because mind you, I finished my master's. Right. So I thought I was done. And here I am with COVID in between.
Yep. Those 25 years that happened.
Yes. I actually took my final exam for the course sequence, the ABA course sequence, on March 13th, 2020.
Wow, congrats.
The day that world
shut down.
Shut down.
I'm surprised they didn't stop. They were like, hey, maybe don't take the test today. We got some stuff going on.
It was an online program, so I don't think it was that detrimental, and no one knew what was happening at the time, right?
Yeah.
But I still had hours to accrue.
I was going to ask if you had hours.
Yeah. And because schools were closed, I went a period of like 6 or 7 months without any, hours. So through that, though, I ended up here. I persevered. And I became a BCBA July 2021.
Congrats.
I was going to say, at the very least, it's really great that you finished. I know it was like a crummy time to finish, but it would have been even worse if you didn't finish before the world shut down, because then everybody was getting into that fine line of like, I might be held to the next standard of the BACB and I may have to take more classes.
Yes.
And nobody could finish because school was not in session.
2,000 hours versus the 1,500.
Yes,
and
I had the 1,500. I tested in the 4th edition, so that was cool.
Yeah.
Like I said, I just had that hiatus, kind of in between. And something else that was a burden at the time, too, was I did finish accruing my hours in March of 2021, but the next test that was available was July.
Right.
So, because of COVID and things were opening back up slowly, those people who were set to test on March 13th, 2020, were still trying to take their tests a year later. Right. So then I had to wait another 6 months before I could even get a slot. So that was a time.
It really was. But you did say something that I think resonates with so many people, is that you kind of fell into it.
Oh, yes.
And I feel like so many of us started somewhere else or, just kind of saw it, or maybe it was a friend recommended, or it was an internship, and immediately it's like it has such a grasp on us of the passion that follows, is immediately we fall in love with it.
100%.
And it's a complete fall. It's not something where you're like, no, I'm going to dabble in it. No, you're in it.
You're in it.
Your first day, you're here for life.
Yeah, seriously. I asked, like, everyone, if someone asks me, like, how did you get into ABA? It's always, well, how did you fall into ABA?
Yeah.
Because I think the overall consensus is we didn't start here. Very few of us have, right? Yeah. But, I mean, talk to me. Like, when you guys were younger, you probably wanted to be a teacher, a veterinarian, a lawyer, right?
Hockey
player. Something that,
Ask me if I can skate.
I don't.
Can't. Answer is no.
But that doesn't matter because you're here now.
Right. That's an old dream. I have new ones now.
But exactly, like we kind of fell into this, and I don't know, I'm really happy with this science and our field, and I'm sure we'll get into it later, but something I say all the time is, all right, cool, I fell into this, now how am I going to get out? Because I want to get out while I still love it.
Yeah.
And, you know.
That's a very interesting concept, already looking that far into the future
100%.
of like, I may become burnt, and how do I navigate that before it actually happens?
100%.
So then, with that being said, I'm sure you have many other passions
Oh,
outside of ABA if you're able to think that
Do
far
tell.
ahead. So what do those look like?
Like more like hobbies or like passions within our science that is not like ASD?
Both, because I'm assuming that you use ABA across all of those things.
I do. So, well, I mean, one of my biggest hobbies right now is I collect crystals. I chart the moon. You know, I'm really into numerology, so those angel numbers. So those of you, I mean, you know, my Instagram right now, the Mystical Analyst, is really tailored to my hobby of spirituality mixed with ABA, right? I feel like that is something that we don't really talk about a lot or enough, but I can't tell you how many people at my job have the same 222 tattoo. And they're like, oh, you're a 222 girl too? Yes. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about it.
Now, is there a beef with the 222s and the 444s?
No, there's no beef.
Okay, good.
No, there's no beef. All
making
angel
sure.
numbers are created equal. I don't know.
Good.
I don't.
I wanted to
Right, you're
square
starting
that
some
away with
trouble.
all of our viewers, just so we
Yes.
know there's no beef.
No beef. No beef.
This is very out of my realm. I have no idea what any of this is. Like in
Yeah.
terms of like the angel numbers, is that what you had said?
Yep.
So tell me about that.
Sure. So if you see numbers in a repeated fashion, typically they come in 3s or 4s, right? That is a sign that your angels who have passed on are looking after you and are with you, and they're telling you something. So each number sequence means something in particular. So 222, for example, means that you're in the right place at the right time. I ended up getting these tattoos, 222 and 444, immediately after I passed the BCBA exam, because I took the test on July 2nd. I was number 2 in line, and my computer was number 2.
I like that. My lucky numbers too. So
Right?
I'm all about it.
Right? So I was like, okay, somebody's talking to me. I'm okay, right? I'm in the right place at the right time. So 222 has resonated with me really like since then.
Interesting. And then what's the 444 or the 44?
Yeah,
Yeah,
444. That typically is your angels. They are with you. You don't have to worry about anything. Like, you know, your guardian angels are there. They got me covered, right? I started seeing that a lot on the clock when my grandfather passed away. We have a battery-operated wall clock in our home, and the night that he passed, the time it stopped at was 444. So I said, don't touch it. It doesn't need a new battery. Leave it alone. It's there for decoration now. So that's my connection with, 444.
Very cool. I like that. Yeah.
Yep.
Sometimes people have tattoos and they have absolutely no meaning behind them. Like
Oh,
yours
mine
are
have
very-
all meaning.
All meaning. I love that. Now, with that being said, as a behavior analyst, obviously this is a very taboo area. And you had
100%.
said that too. And like you can connect with a lot of people at work. Most likely a lot of them are not behavior analysts.
Yeah.
So from a behavior analyst lens, how do you tie in ABA with a lot of these things like the crystals, the angel numbers, the numerology, all of that stuff?
Well, that's a great question because I feel like I'm the most scientific, evidence-based person that there is, but I believe rocks have meaning. So it's like weird,
Yeah.
right? I think for me, tying the ABA into it is more of the discipline. It's more of the practice, right? So not only am I collecting the crystals, right? I'm taking the time out and to understand then their origin and things like that. I'm using ABA to help me, with those crystals and help those crystals in terms of guiding my life, my practices, my discipline, etc.
Does it almost fall into an ACT category? And you can totally correct me if I'm wrong. Or do they somehow blend together?
I feel like it could fall into like an ACT category, right? Because you're kind of reframing, right? Like whether or not amethyst really helped me pass that board exam or not, I don't know. I doubt it, right? Scientifically, I studied
I think there's
my
another crystal
ass
for that.
off, right?
Yeah.
Like I studied, I passed the test. That amethyst had nothing to do with it, but at the same time, it's more of a practice, and it's very similar to exercising and like working out. It's more of that mental stimulation that is kind of, promoting that discipline in your life. So that's where ABA comes into play, that self-monitoring, right? Using that to keep me disciplined in everything that I'm doing, essentially.
So it is for you, and again, this is very out of my scope.
Which is so funny because
Right?
I'm soaking all this up,
Yes.
and Kate and I spend quite a bit of time together. But I'm definitely more of the
She's the rock organizer, you're the collector.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
She puts them up and files them, centers them.
Yes.
Organizes them by color, shape,
Yeah.
and size.
Whereas
Bree's
Bree
like,
has them all around in like circles. And
So with that being said, does each one of your crystals kind of serve as an SD of like, what was the one that you had said before? Help you?
Amethyst.
Amethyst. Does that always accompany you when you're studying, and it serves as like an environmental prompt of like, I have to do this now. Like this is in my center, and this is
Correct.
what I'm doing.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's
I want
almost-
to make sure I understand you.
It's almost like a setting event
Right.
strategy, right? If I know I'm about to study, I'll place certain crystals out that's going to help me with focus, retention, keeping, again, me disciplined during that time.
Okay.
But amethyst is, I use that example a lot because that's just a generalized crystal. I feel
Yeah.
like that is for everything.
Right.
you
It's
got to
almost
get
like
some obsidian in there.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
It's almost like a multiple schedule in terms of,
Yeah.
setting up the environment and
Yeah.
then having something there to signify like this is what's going to happen now.
Correct.
Cool. All right. See? Linking it back to
Right?
ABA.
You're linking.
There we
it's,
go.
It's
I'm
ABA
very black
related.
and white, so this is
Yes.
very helpful for me.
So, I mean, tell us a little bit more about your journey into ABA. So let's even go back before COVID, before you
Okay.
passed.
Yeah.
And let's talk about like the falling into it. What were some of the things that like you learned maybe the hard way about the field?
So, I mean, to even go back even further, I always knew I wanted to work with kids. I didn't know what capacity, but as I look back and reflect on my past experiences and those learning histories, I was always around children, Sunday school teacher, youth choir director. I was always with children. So me working in a school, it just seemed to kind of flow.
Yeah.
But in undergrad, I was actually forensic science major.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was going to be a CSI.
That was one of my long lost dreams too. I wanted to be a clinical psychologist, maybe work for like the behavior unit in the FBI. And then I quickly realized that it's not as realistic as it once was, as TV makes it look.
No, but I grew up watching CSI. I wanted to be a lawyer at one point. I just loved helping people. But to me, I knew I wouldn't be able to sleep at night looking a loved one in their face and saying, I'm sorry, we don't know who committed this crime towards your loved one. Right? So I was like, okay, maybe I have so much empathy and compassion that I need to step forward toward a career that allows me to possess that.
Yeah.
So that was psychology. So I ended up changing my major, I think my third year of undergrad, graduated with a psych degree, went right back and got a master's in child psychology because I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just know I wanted to involve children. So I figured that would buy me some time.
Yeah.
And again, while I was accruing that and, doing all of that stuff, I started nannying. So I was a full-time nanny. But when they were in school, I didn't have anything to do. So I ended up applying to their school to be like a substitute teacher. And I was like, oh, I'll be a teacher. This is great. Not for me. I love it. And we work with teachers.
Yeah.
And I cannot stress how much I love them, right? I don't know how they do it, but it just wasn't for me.
Yeah.
So I was very, very thankful that a BCBA came into my life and was like, hey, we need you. So that's kind of where that originated and the idea originated.
Yeah.
But I kind of forgot your question.
No, that's okay. I mean, but you said some really interesting things. So it was almost like through each step you were constantly reshaping and repinpointing where you wanted to be. You were like, all right, well, I made it here. So now what's my next step? All right, this is what I want to do. All right, I have to take these specific classes. I have to do this. Or I want to work in like children's psychology. So maybe I pick up a job with nannying. Maybe I get around more of the environment of children.
Yep.
At what point then were you like, now this is my career and that's what I'm going to do?
So I don't know if you guys know this concept or think about this concept often, but there is a huge difference between a goal and a dream, right? A goal is something you set for yourself. You create that based on things that are occurring in your life. Kind of like you said, my goal was to get a degree, right? So I'm doing everything I can. I'm rearranging my environment. I'm manipulating my environment to make sure I get that specific degree, right? However, a dream, ironically, is something that keeps you up at night. That dream is instilled in you, and it won't let you sleep until you accomplish that dream or you get closer and closer to that dream. So my goal all my life has been to work with children, has been to, obtain higher education degrees, right? But my dream is for my name and the work that I do to speak for themselves.
Yeah.
Right? So I feel like that's my motivation. That's where I'm going. That's what I'm trying to do, right? Every little milestone is more of an accomplished goal.
Yeah.
Which is great, right?
Now, do you have like a mantra that follows along with that? Is there self-talk that like kind of keeps that going?
Stay with it, Tara, is what I tell myself stay with it.
That
stay with it.
Monologue,
You got this, stay with it. You wouldn't be here if it weren't meant to be, right? I look back and I reflect on my life so many times, and I reflect often on the fact that ABA has always been around me.
Yeah.
I just never knew what it was.
I
was
like
say
in the
that
middle.
often
Too. Like you're implementing ABA every day. When I talk to parents, when I talk to anybody that I come in contact with in the field, we're experts at pointing it out and making you realize what you're doing and the things that are working and the things that are not. But you're doing it, whether or not you know it.
Correct. So I tell people all the time, you don't have to know what this is called in our textbook. I don't blame you. I don't, even want to. It took me years to learn it. But this is what you're doing. You're doing it every day.
And I think that's a great segue for us to discuss how do you use ABA to reach not only those goals, but those dreams that you were talking about?
A lot of self-reflection, a lot of self-monitoring. Self-monitoring in terms of checking in with my goals, right? This Apple Watch, that's good for everything, all right? Anything from my workout to, tracking my calories to even just keeping me on track, taking and using timers all day for task completion for myself, right? I feel like as long as I have that end goal, I have to manipulate my environment to allow that dream to come true, right? Meaning I need to be more disciplined, meaning I have to get up and go to the gym every morning before work, even if I don't want to. Yes, there are wonderful physical benefits of this. We work with children who love to be, spun around and, it's great to be able to dart out of a school building and not be winded afterwards. But also that discipline, right, is allowing your mental state to open up. And it's allowing for things that are meant for you to come inside, right? And I say this all the time and people think that I'm crazy, but I'm like, I will not leave the house. Like my bed has to be made. Right? Because that's setting my day up for success. If my day goes to complete shit, which it usually does, my bed is made. That was my win of the day. Or I went to the gym, that was my win of the day, right? Or I ate all my fruits, or I reached my protein goal, right? So that's how I get closer and closer to my dream. And those mini goals actually have nothing to do with it. That's the weird part. Me going to the gym has nothing to do with me wanting people to hear my name and it ring bells. Right? It has nothing to do with that, but it's that discipline, and it's keeping me focused and keeping me on track to kind of get to that point.
I love that. You gave it a different spin on what we typically talk about. So we always talk about the physical aspect of it, right? But we don't discuss how it sets you up for success for the rest of the day and kind of puts you at the forefront. So you're not starting your day off at a deficit. I woke up with not enough sleep. You went to bed early to make sure that you were ready for the next day. I may have woke up on the wrong side of the bed, but I just crushed a workout, and now I'm really ready for the day. You know what I mean? It's almost like set yourself up and dress for success or the job that you want. It's like a different version of that.
Yeah. It's like our antecedent interventions. That we give, we utilize and implement for our kiddos, right? I want you to be successful. I want you to do math today. So you know what? Here, do one problem instead of all five. You did math. A win is a win.
Right? A win is a win.
A win is a win.
And then even, for anyone that follows you on Instagram, you shared a reel today that, this morning, about you going to the gym and how you're just a better person for going to the gym. And like, that's why you do it first. And I say that all the time. I'm a better person when I start my day at the gym. I might be a little tired, or I might be like, I don't want to do this today. But once you talk yourself through that, now you're like, all right, I can do anything.
Correct. But you're also showing up for yourself. And I think that's what a lot of people in our field don't take advantage of. Yes. You have to show up for yourself because this field is so demanding. It requires us to be extremely empathetic and to give our feelings, right, and our filled cup to other people. Yeah. So you have to show up for yourself for at least 2 hours a day, right? Yeah. And that's usually my morning routine and my night routine to make sure I'm leveled and I'm checking in on those goals, right? I'm looking up, I'm going through my notebook because I write down anything I want to achieve and I date it and I make sure I'm on track.
Yeah. And then there's that internal component too, right? So studies have shown that when you do something difficult and you overcome it, there's a rush of endorphins in the brain, right? Yeah. So with that rush of endorphins, it really does put you in that better mood or make you that, like Bree was saying, that quote unquote better person for the day, whether it be 100%. It reduces some stress or just makes you feel really awesome at 6 a.m.
At 6 a.m.
Or 5,
Not 5. I haven't seen 5 a.m. in a really long time.
Unfortunately, we have to get back to that club in the next couple of weeks when school starts up. So
that's true. Yeah. That's true. Well, luckily when school starts up, so I work for an amazing company actually. And our school that I work at contracts our company, for BCBA and RBT services. So the school that I work at is actually in the town that I live in. Oh. So I am one song away from the school, and my start time is 8:30. Oh, wow. So I could get to the gym at 6 and not be rushed. Right. Because I hate being rushed, right?
Goals right there.
That makes the toughest part of the day what song to put on.
I know. I tell people that all the time, and it's so much pressure because I feel like music plays a part into my mood, into my day all the time.
You're priming yourself for the day. Correct. So you're literally putting yourself in the mood for what you're going to encounter as soon as you walk in those doors.
100%. I'm a firm believer. There's power in the tongue. There's power in the ears. So anything that you're saying or listening to and indulging in is going to set your path, your trajectory,
Yeah.
And I think that's something that even people don't think about, even when it comes to the students we work with, where, I give basic recommendations and some people are like, oh, what do you mean? I'm like, just start the day with like calming music when they walk through. Say hello to the kid. Tell them you're happy they're here because you might be the only one saying that.
Correct. Yeah.
So if you can start their day for success, just like you probably set your day up for success, you'll probably have a much better time.
I agree. Yeah. I agree. That greeting. That's a big one. Yeah. They don't.
Because then even those simple things just increase that probability that they're going to stay in that comfortable mood versus like the very first thing that happens in the day and they're like, fuck it. And they throw everything in the air or flip their desk. Yep. Maybe it's the third or fourth thing now where they're like, they can make it all the way up until math versus before they were like, I know math is coming. I'm going to flip my desk. I'm not getting into math, but because you said hi, you introduced some calming music or just the environment was more welcoming, you're literally like creating the environment for them to be like, what, this isn't so bad.
Correct.
Maybe I do want to be here.
And very much so calming, I feel like, right? First thing in the morning, some of these, I have neighbors who are in high school. That bus comes and picks them up at 6:50.
Yep.
It's dark.
Yep.
In the wintertime. And they're going to school, starting their day a little after 7.
Yep.
They got math first.
Before 8 o'clock, they're already doing a test.
Correct.
Yes. It is rough. It is rough.
Correct. And we also don't know for our students, like, what happened from the time they woke up or the time they went to bed last night to the time they got on the bus that next morning, right? Like, I feel like breakfast is a big one, right? You could greet them. Right? You can have calming music on, but if they have not eaten and they have no way of telling you that, right, that could also, right? So not only those environmental factors we have to consider, but,
all the setting events that have come before.
Those setting events and those internal factors that maybe we can't see. We can't see hunger. We can't see it. But, if you're lucky, you can hear it. And if you know the student well enough, you just know.
Yeah.
Right? But those, like you said, Bree, those are all things that, like, come together when we're setting our days up for success, whether we be clinicians, whether it's right, because you're not a BCBA at 5 a.m. No, you're in the gym.
Yes.
I don't know who you are or who you think you are at that time, but you are not a BCBA during that time. Same goes for our kiddos, right?
Yeah.
They don't want to be a student at 7 a.m.
I didn't want to be a student ever. So I totally can relate.
Yeah.
Whenever I run trainings within a school district, I always like to do that whole soda can thing.
Okay.
So it's
Tell me more.
you have two soda cans, right? And one soda can is kind of got its whole day set up for them.
Okay.
And it just gets to school. The other soda can woke up late, so I shake the soda can. And then maybe they didn't get to eat a good breakfast. Shake the soda can again. They missed the bus and they had to dress themselves. Shake the soda can again. Got into a fight with their parent on the way to school because they missed the bus. Shake the soda can again. You walk into the building. Hey, Tommy, how was your morning? You open up that soda can, all over. Open up that other one who just came to school.
Yep.
Nothing.
Yep.
And then you really have to look at it and say, like, I can't see anything that happened before the student walked through the door.
Yeah.
So I cannot take this personally because they could have went through a beret of things that I'm just not privy to.
Correct. I love that. I'm going to use that.
No, good. You can use it with fruit,
I'm gonna
too.
quote you. I'm
You
gonna
can throw
quote
a
you,
peach
but-
on the ground and then cut open the peach and be like, here's all the bruising. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay.
So there's two ways to do it.
I
but
don't think
those
I'll
are my
explode
favorite.
a soda can.
So do the peach.
I'll do the peach.
There you go. Or an apple.
An
It's fruit.
apple.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Just smash fruit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's fun, too. You call staff up. You're like,
Yes.
hey, shake the can. Throw
Correct.
the peach. You know what I mean?
Correct. I do like the soda can idea.
Okay.
I'm going to do it.
Okay, cool. But yeah, it just goes back to the point of setting your environment up for success.
Yes.
But also don't take things personally because you never know what somebody else is going through.
100%.
Yeah.
And they may not have found their way yet. And that's what I also wanted to talk about. You sound very confident in the things that make you successful, right? And obviously that is something that takes a bit to round out and find what works for you. So looking at yourself way back when and your journey, how have you changed from then to now?
That confidence, I don't know, that's a true gift. Because everyone tells me that, like, oh, you're so confident, you stand so confidently, or you sound so confident. It's nothing that I sat down one day and was like, I need to be more confident.
You
right?
woke up like that.
Yeah, I woke up like this. But it needed, to your point, it needed to surface, right? Yep. Confidence is one of those traits that I feel like is instilled at some point. Yes, you could shape it up, right? But they're still in you somewhere, right? And I think that's why we're all in this field, because we are asked to do so much, right? So whether or not you think you have confidence, you have to have it in this field, because you have to walk into a school where all eyes are on you and figure it out, right? So to kind of answer your question, I feel like from then and now, it kind of just, I hate to use like the turtle shell, but like that's kind of what it is. Or like a snake skin, like kind of just shedding its skin. This field changes you. It changes you. And I've only been a BCBA for 3 years, but you can never talk to me how you talked to me 3 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, when I was first a BCBA, I didn't understand, one, all that was out there. I didn't understand the need for our role, right? I think that's where the confidence come from, BACB. They post data every year. There are 2 jobs in the United States for every one of us right now. So it's like, you need me, kind of.
Yeah.
Just saying. But I feel like a lot of that came with that growth and those experiences, right? That was part of the reason why after passing my test, I wanted to make sure that I worked for a company that would allow me to gain those experiences and allow me to kind of fuck up, per se, right? Because I needed to learn from those mistakes in order to get stronger, in order to get better, right? So that confidence comes from me at one point making those mistakes and taking that accountability, self-reflecting to ensure that it doesn't happen again, and then moving forward. But a lot of that confidence also comes from me reaching out and doing my own research, because I don't know at what point it was, maybe some point last year, like right before having my own consulting business, I was like, wait, there's more to this? right? So it's a quick Google search, it's Instagram, right? That's how I ended up on Instagram. So a lot of that confidence comes from doing my own research and figuring out like, okay, there is more to ABA than what is kind of
originally
presented
shown.
to us. Presented to us, right? We have a goal of passing the board exam to work with autistic children.
Yeah.
That's just what it is. But if you check out the BACB data again, they have a beautiful pie chart that shows all of the other areas that BCBAs are desperately needed in, right? So, like I said, there's plenty of room for exploration. And I'm just looking at, it looks like 222 right here on this red cord.
Oh, you're right.
It just pops up like that.
It just, for me, it just pops up
go.
like that. And for those who understand, it just pops up. So I hope that answered your question.
No, absolutely. And it made me think of two different areas to go down.
Okay.
So one, you discussed failure, right?
Yes.
And failure is so important. And I think
Huge.
newly certified BCBAs need to hear that.
Yes.
Is you will fail at one point. If you don't fail, you might not be acting enough out of your comfort zone to grow.
Yeah.
But that's the only way we're going to get there, right? Like we can learn through visually watching others, but you're never going to be able to apply something until you are, you know, your hands are dirty and you're doing it yourself.
Yep.
Yeah.
And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. But the fact that you had the mindset and shift to say, hey, this didn't work out, but it's okay because I'm going to take that entire experience and make sure it doesn't happen again. And I'm going to come back and do it better and faster and quicker than last time. You know what I mean? Like that is so important. And I think people need to hear that.
Yeah.
Because they're just so afraid to fail.
Yes.
And you have to fake it until you make it at some point,
Correct.
right?
Yeah.
Like that is being a BCBA initially. It's just you pass that exam and no graduate program out there teaches you what to do after.
No.
It's like you pass the exam.
Yep.
Here you go. And it's like, what the hell do I do
Here's
now?
paper.
Correct.
Yeah.
I literally took a nap after taking the test, and I woke up and I was like, okay, let's go get some tattoos. And then the next day I was like, oh,
What do I do now?
okay. Oh, I don't know what to do. And not on the test is you're thrown into this, right? Again, I can't stress enough how wonderful my current company has been, but I was thrown the fuck in.
Yeah.
With no life jacket.
And that's what I was saying. Like, you don't know until your hands are dirty.
Correct.
Like, all those
Correct.
things you read, wrote papers on, wrote programs on, like, it looks different in person. Like, even down to, like, CPI and SPA and all those certifications you get.
Unless you're
when
doing
you're
it.
in the environment, it is so different. I can't express that enough.
So different. But I think to your point too, right, for all our new BCBAs out there, or even BCBAs who are just still at this point afraid to branch out because they're going to fail, right? You have to operationally define failure and success.
Yeah.
And once you do that and you create your own definition of that, because topography, it looks different for everybody.
Yeah.
Right?
But
I feel like I'm successful.
I also don't think that you can understand or define success until you meet failure.
100%.
Because you don't know what success even looks like until you've failed and fucked up at it.
Yeah.
I think the greatest things that I do now in my day-to-day job is because I fucked it up.
100%.
Like, I think, especially when it comes to, like, anything behavioral or CPI or crisis or just, like, implementing certain anything. Like, I fucked it up at first. And then I had to have that feedback and have to try it again to know, all right, I'm doing this right now.
Yeah.
Because that's what success is.
Correct.
But I had to define what failure is first.
Correct. But even if you go back to, right, like success for me, I made my bed today.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. So it's like those professional successes, they just come after you have those, like you said, those experiences and those failures per se.
And
that's such a strong word.
You don't give as much energy to those failures. Like you said, you're looking for the good.
Yep.
And that's something I feel like so many people have to learn, especially in right now. Everything is just immediate reinforcement. It's a like on a picture. It's, here's my phone, here's an iPad, even for our students. So they're not given that opportunity to maybe fail or anything else. So when it does happen, it's like major meltdowns,
100%.
things like that. And actually, which at some point someone's going to get sick and be like, shut the hell up. Don't say this. Just stop. But
All right, stop.
no. So as some of you know, I work with a boxing trainer, and there's times where I'm like, shit, like I can't get this combo. And the one day he's like, stop putting so much energy into the fuck ups and just like get your head back on and keep going. Like, all right, what are you going to do next time? Keep going. Yep. And I think about that a lot, because when you do put energy into those failures, then you're just going to get more of that and be so stuck, rather than, all right, here's my next step. I learned from it. It was an experience. Let's go and see what success looks like.
And it's draining. And I think that's where burnout comes from in our field. Yeah. Because we're so focused on, okay, like I messed that up, or, I don't know how to supervise 7 RBTs at one time, or like, you know what I mean? Like, and that's where the burnout comes from, but that's where the self-reflection also comes in. Okay, yes, this is hard, but what can I do to make it easier on me, right?
And again, you wouldn't be here if it wasn't meant to happen that way.
Yeah,
so
correct.
Correct. You're maybe not supervising those 7 people right this second because you didn't learn how to do it yet.
Correct.
Yet is the key word.
Yet is the key word.
So.
And I think something that you both said were so important, that our world is set up for immediate reinforcement, even down to now thinking back, because you talked about the BACB exam and you got your results right away.
Yeah.
Where Brianna and I, we had to wait.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I would have threw up.
We had to wait at least a month or so. Yeah.
And you got an email.
And you didn't even, so the best part was you didn't even know when the results were coming. It wasn't like August 31st, you'll get your results. It was like when you see people posting on Facebook that they got their results, you hop onto your account and hopefully your results are there. Wow. If not, maybe you got to wait another day. But you knew people who took the exam the same times as you, and you waited for them to get it. It wasn't even like there was a date. So even down to now, when you take your exam that you've been studying for, you get the results right away. There's no waiting. There's no delayed reinforcement. Yeah. And I think that's kind of what sets us up for failure in this field. Yes. Because a lot of the reinforcement that we get from this field is delayed.
Delayed.
Like progress with a learner, delayed. Buy-in from caregivers and parents, a lot of the times delayed. Yeah. Right. You know what I mean?
Even just pairing with school staff.
Delayed.
Day one, you might not be the most liked person in the room because you might signal you're more work now.
Yes.
Yeah.
So if you don't build those relationships, which I feel like new BCBAs are like, oh, they just don't like me. It's like, all right, it's okay. You try again tomorrow and you work on it.
Yes.
Yeah.
But our feedback though is something that's also delayed, and I feel like that's also problematic.
Right, yeah.
Right?
But that's what I'm saying. You're so primed for all right, where's the reinforcement? Yes. And it's like, you may not be getting it right away. Even down to your paycheck. Delayed. Yeah. You know what I mean? That's not coming in immediately. So, you're always looking for that. And if it is really delayed, it could burn a person out.
It can.
You know what I mean? Because you're so used to getting it so quickly. Yes. It's like that extinction burst is going to happen. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yep.
So
it's very
you really have to mentally prepare yourself for that entering this field.
100%.
And then even social media, and I love that you post everything. You post the highlights of all the cool things you're doing, but you also share, all right, I wasn't always here. Here's how I got here. Yeah. Here are the things that I did. Because there are, and no fault to anyone, because social media is a highlight reel, but there are BCBAs out there that post just the wins, which is amazing. Yeah. But then for some of us doing it day in and day out, whether it's BCBAs, whether it's anything on social media, you're just seeing the wins and you're like, oh man, I suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
What am I doing?
It's hard. That's why I try not to do, because there definitely is it's very one-sided, right? But I try to, at least in my stories anyway, speak and interact with my followers, because it's I had a bad day too. Yeah. I got a desk thrown at me too.
Yeah.
And this is how that I'm trying to cope with that and move forward. That way tomorrow I'm planning better for that.
Yeah.
Do you get a lot of collaboration online and people reaching out to you to say thank you for posting this, thank you for showing this?
Yes.
I can relate,
Yes, and it melts my heart, and it honestly brings tears to my eyes, because I get messages people this thick of a paragraph, and they're just saying I needed to hear this, thank you so much for showing a more realistic side of our job. Because in all honesty, we only know ABA as the Cooper text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you don't know what to do when you don't have the Cooper text in a school district or in a clinic or in somebody's house.
And again, I think the thing that's so important about you sharing all that stuff is you're not afraid to kind of breach those uncomfortable things and talk about the things that are uncomfortable and make it like very well known, like, hey, this shit might be uncomfortable, but I'm going to say it. And here it is. Here's the real take on it. Here's how I feel. Here's how I'm overcoming it. Or here's what I notice in the field.
Correct.
And I think a lot of people are just so scared or don't even know how to kind of bring that stuff up, even if it is uncomfortable. So to see someone like you do it, I'm sure that brings so much joy to others where, again, like it's where you start and where you end up. 100%. So people are like, I don't even know, like I just passed my boards. I don't really know what to do. I've never done an FBA. And then you're over here talking like, I don't like this shit.
I'm over this for today.
Yeah, like, come on now. And kind of speaking on that, like, do you notice any pushback or are there like certain topics that you find uncomfortable that you're like more passionate about speaking on now?
So we'll stick with social media first, right? I feel like I get a lot of trolls on social media. It's very interesting, but I'm also so compassionate that I want to hear your point of view, right? So if you're going to make, a 3-paragraph comment on one of my posts because I've offended you, come to my DMs. Let's talk about this because I really do want to understand whether or not I've offended you or whether you misunderstood, right? Because I do create a lot of content for current BCBAs, right? My audience isn't parents or families, and it's not to say that I'm disrespectful towards those populations, but I just don't make content for that. So sometimes when people that I'm not making content for come across my content, they're like, well, what is your problem? Like this, I'm like, well, no, that's not what I'm trying to say, right?
Everything in context, right?
Yes, everything in context. But as you guys see daily, those who get it, right? And I think that's what my purpose is. Like that's what I'm doing it for. But I have been very selective about what I'm posting and what I'm posting about. Even something as simple as like an extra word in like the reel tag. You guys know when you make a reel and you put like a point of view type of thing. If you even add an extra word or an extra article, right? Sometimes it throws off that perspective or that audience. So then the algorithm is going to push it to an audience that I don't want it to reach essentially. So I've been very selective about my social media just because I don't want to unintentionally offend different cultures or different populations, right? However, other topics that I feel like I am always going to speak on, regardless of how uncomfortable it makes people feel, is definitely racism and ABA. Is definitely the idea that Black women and Black men are not kind of surfaced in this field outside of the clinical role, right? I go to conferences and I could count on my hand of, different Black presenters, right? Or even presenters of color, right? So I think that's a topic that I'm always going to advocate for. And because I've been humbly blessed this last year and was able to speak at a number of conferences. I have even lost count this year alone. I'm using that platform, I feel like, to tackle conversations such as implicit bias, such as, racism and ABA. And I'm actually speaking at a conference next month discussing how ABA can be disseminated through social media because it is appropriate, right? So those kind of difficult topics, I feel like, are difficult for some people to hear, but they are topics that I'm passionate about discussing. So I'll never stop.
And nor should you, because they're important. People do need to hear them. And obviously, if enough people were that upset about, they'd stop inviting you to conferences. But they're not.
No, and I feel like that's more of where ABA is going now. A lot of organizations realize, oh, like, we fucked up. Like, we don't even have a person of color presenting during this entire conference, right? So I feel like those organizations are trying to make things work. WIBA, Women in Behavior Analysis, for example, that was a conference I went to this past July.
I was going to ask how it was, because we just had somebody else on the podcast who said it was the best conference that she ever attended.
Best conference I've ever attended. Not only was it well organized, but it was a conference that aligned with my personal values. This is one I'm going to be attending.
I gotta go
every year. it was amazing. But even then, they sat down and did some self-reflection and took some accountability, right? They looked at the attendance over the last 3-4 years and was like, okay, we're not getting a certain demographic to attend this conference, so let's move the city location. Let's move the location of the conference. So this year, it was the first year it was in Atlanta, and it was over 1,000 people.
Was it in Nashville previously?
Yes.
I went to it like 3 years ago. It was an awesome conference.
It's a wonderful organization and a wonderful conference.
A lot of people showed up.
Correct. So I was so glad that they opened it up to a different population, because I can't put it into words.
Yeah.
Where did Daniela say it was going to be next time?
Atlanta again.
I think so.
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
they decided on
So it
Atlanta
must have
again.
done very well.
It did.
Yeah.
Amazing. And the venue was the best venue I've ever been in.
Really?
Wow.
It was. I was like, okay, this is great.
Yeah.
And Janet, she's wonderful. Wonderful human being. And I think when we look at organizations, we look at the organization as a whole. We don't really look at organizations for the faces that are behind the scenes, right? So considering that she is already a dope ass person, it already made that conference so much better.
Yeah.
But yes, that is my absolute favorite one. And the fact that my presentation was so very well accepted and received at that conference, I think it was just honestly amazing.
Yeah.
See, now I really, really, really want to go. Like, to hear it twice in a day, from 2 different people.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
If there's a third, then that means it has to happen, right?
Well,
Isn't that the law?
Ty
The
could
law of
technically be
threes?
the third, because he said it too. So,
Oh, then
Yes.
that's 3.
People.
That's 3.
Yep.
But I think to your point, some of these conferences that are finally shifting to a point where they're changing the culture a bit.
Yes.
It's more of, it's not just like this stuffy conference where someone's presenting their research and you're falling asleep. It's interactive.
I could name a few.
Yeah. We've been to some where we're like, oh, again,
Yes.
like
Yes.
they reel you in with with a cool title, and then
Yes.
it's a snooze
Dry
fest.
as hell.
Yes.
Sometimes
Yeah.
I sit in them and I'm like, how are you even excited to talk about this right now? Like,
Yeah.
it's horrible.
But I think shifting that narrative to making it more fun, to drawing more people
Yes.
in, and drawing it based on people's true interests
Yes.
rather than just this is the dry field of ABA, because
Correct.
that's not going to bring anyone else in.
No.
And I think even down to like the social media, that's the world that we live in.
Yeah.
And I feel like for so long, people that have been in the field for a while, they're like, well, you can't do that.
Yeah.
Why would you post on social media about ABA?
Correct.
Like that,
Skinner would never.
yeah. So I think it's cool to watch the shift and see, like, I don't know much about it, but I see it all over Instagram, like the ABA versus block parties
Yes.
and all that. Like, you're having fun at these
Yes.
conferences. It's not just science.
Yes. And it doesn't have to just be science. I'm not saying take the science out of the field, right? Because we're evidence-based. We need that. And to be honest, we still need to learn. So not only do I present at these conferences, but I attend talks because you need to learn. But the fact that we're able to have fun at the conferences with like ABA versus and, just kind of do things just a little bit differently, that's kind of, would wake Skinner up right now. But I think he would be okay with it. I think if he were
Yeah.
here, he'd be like, yes, Tara, like,
I
go
think the
ahead."
pigeons would at least.
I think
yeah,
so,
the pigeons
too.
would be having a great time.
Bird's
Yes.
the word.
Yeah.
I think so. And I think everyone is following that mold. And again, that's okay because that's where we came from.
Yeah.
But where are we going?
Yeah. Well, let's talk about that. Where would you like us to go? Because I know, and we kind of started the whole conversation with,
Yeah.
you fell in. Now, how do you
Yes.
get out?
Yes.
Where do you see yourself? Like, where would you like the field to be, or where do you see it going before you do?
I would like to see the field to be the WEBA 2024 conference forever. That's what I would like to see.
Weeba forever.
No, but seriously, like, laid back,
Okay.
right? Academic, scholarly, laid back. I want to see the field unlock opportunities for folks, right? We are an amazing science. Everyone deserves the right to share their research or to speak on things that they've been working on. I would love to kind of see more, I don't know, like in the applied realm, like less touching of the clients. I would love to see that. I would love to kind of get all school districts and different organizations on board with our science. Like, it is not what it used to be.
Yeah.
Right? I would love to see just our field be accepted. I feel like we're just a collaboration, right? Like when you make a reel and you ask someone to be a collaborator, that's what BCBAs are right now. And it's great because no one bothers us.
Right.
Yeah.
But they still see BCBAs and ABA as something that's separate.
Yeah.
Why can't it just be a part of the curriculum, for everybody? It works for everybody, for everything.
Which is, I think that's an amazing point too, because again, like you started off by saying like your dream is you want people to be able to hear your name and you're like, I know her.
Yeah.
Where I think for the first time in a long time in the field, we're living in an era where that's very possible, where you're not just a BCBA that works for a certain company.
Yes.
You're the BCBA with your own kind of like skill set, whole resume, and again, it's like the first time that this is really coming to light where people are individualized for their skill sets versus just being a part. And there's nothing wrong with the organizations themselves.
No.
But if you want to be recognized for your work to kind of go above and beyond, I think now is the time where that starts.
I agree, because we have the leverage of social media.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Everyone asks me all the time, well, how are you branding your company, your content, and how are you advertising? And I'm like, well, I'm marketing with social media. It's free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel like now, like you said, now's the time. Now's the time to get out there and do things on your own with your own intentions, because it's possible,
You make me want to make my bed now.
Don't stop
I think I have to go home.
I thought it was the only one. I never make my bed. I just want to put that out there.
I make my bed every day. If it's not made, it gets made before I go.
I think I will.
Nah. I have other goals in place to set myself up for success. That one's going to stay.
Yeah, that's fair.
When I roll out of bed at 4:30 in the morning, the last thing I'm going to do is make the
exactly.
bed.
And that's
I think,
that's
honestly,
true.
I feel like you
Again,
handspring out of bed.
idiosyncratic. We talked about that before, right? Like
Yeah.
what for you is success
Correct.
is different for me.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
Yep.
my other success could be like 10,000 steps that I get
Yes.
throughout the day. May not be yours,
Yep.
but hey, I feel great when I
Yep.
hit that goal
Yeah.
throughout the
Yeah,
day.
even if the day falls to shit, you still have your bed made. You still hit your 10,000 steps.
Correct.
Yep.
It's like those things are still standing above all the other
Correct.
things.
So don't feel
Correct.
bad about don't make your bed. I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Anti-bed now.
You also have kids that probably go right in and mess it up. So.
Oh my God, it's like instant.
2 dogs?
Yeah.
No, I'm just kidding. It's not the same. It's not the same. You did bring up a very fair fact that we should be able to implement the science but enjoy what we're doing.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
we work in a very stoic field, and it's very seldom that you come across another BCBA within a district, within your company, especially when you're third party, because I know we all experience that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unless you have a bunch of people from your company working in that building, you're pretty much on an island,
Yeah.
right? And if you're a BCBA in a district, there may be 1 or 2 more sprinkled in there, but you don't really come in contact with them unless you're in a crisis meeting
Yes.
or something
Yes.
that doesn't really like pump positivity.
Yes.
So having an entire conference for people to come together who are like-minded and are on the same team and believe in the same things, we should be able to pump some fun into them.
Yes.
Because
Yeah.
like if you can't do it there, where are you doing it?
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Correct. I have candidates or like young BCBAs or about to be BCBAs that I work with at my company, and they never heard of conferences. Like they didn't realize it was a thing that you can
Wow.
go to. I guess that our field makes it seem like it's such a like invited event.
Yeah.
Like you have to be invited to attend. But no, yes, they are pricey, but that's a whole other hour on our
Right.
podcast.
Yeah.
Right. So sometimes it's not feasible for young
Correct, yeah.
BCBAs or, candidates or RBTs to attend. But a lot of organizations now are doing scholarships.
Yeah.
They're doing programs where you can, be raffled into a free ticket or a night stay. Did a student scholarship.
Yeah, I saw that. That's awesome.
Where complete registration and all 3 nights.
It is wild how much some of these things cost. And I totally understand that there's a reason they got to pay people. You know what I mean? Like the speakers cost money, you know, hotel.
Sometimes. Some of us do it for free.
Some of us do it for free. Fair. Fair.
Yeah.
But I don't think people realize how much they really do cost, because Bree and I run, we call it New BC Cohort here at BDA, where anybody who's newly certified, we have a special onboarding and a special training for you to learn how to be a BCBA, not only in general, but here at BDA.
Awesome.
And going over that CEU portion is part of it. And when we actually touch on the conference aspect of it, and the reason why we touch on it is because we let everybody here know that, like, we're going to provide you with free opportunities to get those CEUs to keep your credential, because they can become so pricey. And when we go over the prices of some of these things, I swear some of their eyeballs are going to fall out of their head, because it is astronomical. Like upwards of $900 sometimes. And then when you want to add the CEUs on top of it, it's like, oh, that's an extra $100. And then you need a plane ticket. And then you need a hotel. And it's like, and then you got to eat. God forbid you have to feed yourself. Like all these things add up. And then you're at $2,000 to attend a conference. To get 36 CEUs.
A one-day conference.
You know what I mean? If that.
And at that rate, you're like, oh, I could book an all-inclusive trip somewhere good and forget the CEUs, you know?
That's a Disney
and I
cruise
think that's a
line right
turnoff. I think it's a turnoff for our field and current BCBAs, but I do think there are more pros to attending conferences than there are cons.
Of course,
right? Money, I feel like, is huge.
It's camaraderie. You know what I mean? Like I said, we need that fun time together.
Yes. It's in. Oh, now you got me. I PTSD. I can't. I don't even want to look at my statements. Like all the conferences that I've spent. You know, just hotels, like you said, food and things like that.
But you're also doing it for a reason and a passion, and I think that's awesome. Like you're not just going to go. Like you're going to disseminate and to spread the word.
Correct. But that's why I also started my consulting business. Because I get all that money back.
Loophole.
Correct.
There we go.
Like that's something people don't realize of like, all right, if I do it a certain way, maybe it is a write-off, or maybe I can move some things around where it makes more sense for me. But you don't learn that in grad school.
No,
we learn the bare bones basic. No, it's not on the test. We're lucky we learn how to interact with people after grad school.
That's a whole nother topic.
Consulting.
Yes.
If you want to talk a little bit about that.
Sure,
What were some of your pitfalls as you were going through that whole process? So things that you essentially had to learn and you were just like, wow, this sucks.
So I guess to even go further back, I've been learning my entire life. I'm the oldest child. I'm the first gen college student, right? So I didn't know what I was doing 10 years ago in undergrad, let alone, I still don't know what I'm doing now. But because I persevered through all of that, right, filling out that FAFSA, right, by myself, right? You know, going through 4 years of undergrad by myself, working 4 jobs to put myself through, you know, financially, then doing it again for a master's, right? And then an ABA certificate, and then now a PhD. I feel like all the obstacles that I've faced have taught me to persevere through. So what's a consulting business? What do you mean? I'm in a PhD program. I can start an LLC for $75.
And there we go.
Right? So it took that mindset. It was like, okay, I've been persevering my entire life. Why can't I just fill out this one single lick of paperwork and then move on? But fear got in the way, right? I had my consulting business for an entire 8 months before I did anything with it. It took me a leap to even start the business, but then it took me a greater leap to even create the Instagram or to show people that that's what I was doing. I think I wasn't afraid of failure. I was more so afraid of the people close to me not supporting me.
Interesting.
And that's right. It's extremely interesting. Like I have almost 4,000 followers on Instagram who check in with me every day, who tell me I'm doing a great job, who hype me up, right? Where I have some extremely close friends who have no idea what I even do for a living. So I feel like that was my fear, kind of.
Just being questioned.
Just being questioned or putting a life behind me that I once knew. Because when you become successful or when you start doing things that people wish that they can do, it's different. It's different.
Brett brings that up a lot. he talks about how sometimes the closest people
Yeah.
to you, especially when starting a business,
Yes.
will be the first to tear you down for
Yes.
it and tell you why it's not a good idea.
Yes.
And Bree and I talk about this often, and it's like you got to figure out who those people are, and it may be uncomfortable at the time, but you may have to remove them out of your life or slowly let life take over, and then they'll naturally fade themselves out.
Correct. Or in. Right?
in,
Maybe
right.
maybe they realize like, oh, okay, this wasn't a bad
Right.
idea. I'm sorry. I am going to support. Right? Like,
Right.
you just, you know.
But sometimes it takes time, and there are growing pains, and I think people need to set themselves up for that and realize
Yes.
that is a reality. It's okay.
Yeah.
Let those people go, or
100%.
let them find their way back.
Yeah.
What's meant to be will be, right?
100%. And I feel like that was my biggest fear. And
Yeah.
everyone asks me all the time, like, well, what made you take that leap? It was kind of just like a motivation plays a big part into it as well. Again, oldest sibling, right? First gen college student, right? If my life goes to complete shit, I cannot ask my parents for any money. They live with me, right? So it's like I have no other choice. And I don't know how else to explain that to people other than, like, you just got to want to do it.
Yeah.
You got to wake up and you got to want to do it. And it keeps you up at night if it's real. Again, if it's that dream, it'll keep you up at night.
Yeah.
Life won't let you move on until you work at it. you know?
Yeah.
So that's the biggest challenge I feel like I faced with my consulting is getting it started. After I got it started and I made that Instagram, that was it. Everything, I was like, whoa, this is happening so fast.
Yeah.
So fast. And then it took for me to speak at ABAI. And since then I spoke at a conference, I was just getting offers after like one another. So I feel like everything else was just kind of taking ahead, and I'm here for the ride.
Yeah.
Yeah. Is that your favorite thing to talk about at conferences? Is this whole social media piece, or?
No, so this talk that I'll be doing next month is actually the first time I'm talking about it.
Okay. So what is your favorite topic, if you don't mind me asking?
My favorite topic to speak about, I feel like, is, again, like tailoring in that implicit bias
Okay.
and cultural humility.
Okay.
I love cultural humility. I'm hoping that that's what my dissertation focuses on. I just love helping other people understand that culture just doesn't mean food, religion, music,
Yes.
right? Culture is anything a group of people share.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
right now we have podcast culture. I know that this is a microphone and I know it's emitting my voice, right? I know these are headphones, right? Cameras all around. But same for, it could be ethnicity, it could be disability, right?
Yeah.
It could be anything. But I love disseminating cultural humility and aiming for a more culturally humble ABA, because that's what we need. That's where I would love to see ABA go.
Absolutely. Because you open up more doors for
Yep.
that, honestly, more services to be provided,
100%.
and also that empathetic lens to be more opened.
Yep.
Because then you're taking away the biases that everyone believes are really there,
Yeah.
and you kind of realize there's not that many.
No.
There's really not.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today. So
course.
if you don't mind telling the listeners where they can find you and where you'll be presenting at in any upcoming conferences.
Sure. So you can find me on Instagram at The Mystical Analyst. You could find me on LinkedIn, Quintara Tucker, my first and last name. My consulting business, you can find my website, www.qbconsulting111, that angel number, .com. My biggest, I feel like, accomplishment or something that I'm extremely excited about is I've been asked to co-author a chapter in an ABA textbook.
Wow.
So I cannot wait.
Congrats.
That's awesome.
Thank you. I can't wait to have that in my hand. We're finishing up the last edits right now before it gets sent out to that professional editor, but I'm super, super excited about that.
Maybe I do need to make my bed now.
Stop. Or find something for you.
Yeah.
If
Well,
it's
yeah.
not your bed,
It's something.
something.
It's something. We'll get
Stretching, maybe.
Working on it.
Start small.
I can
Start
touch my
small.
knees.
Start small.
Start small. A
Yeah.
win is a win.
Well, again, thank you so much for joining us, and
course.
hopefully we can do this again.
Of course. Thank you so much for having me. This was so fun.
Thanks, guys.
check out thekarmacollection.com for stylish ABA-inspired apparel that spreads the message of behavior science with every wear. Free shipping on orders over $120. thekarmacollection.com